Hey everyone, thanks for joining. I just want to let you all know up top that we're going to be starting in just about a minute or two so that we can let everyone start logging in. Talk to you soon. Right, for everyone who just joined, just let you know we're going to be starting in just about one more minute. All right, let's get started. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar. Let everyone know a few things up top. One is that we are recording. So if you end up needing to leave early or you had a colleague who's unable to join, you will be able to view this later. Two, you are able to ask questions if you would like to. There's a question panel right in the overall Zoom. Put them right in there or even chat. Beyond that, don't really want to take up too much more time at the beginning. So I'd like to pass over to our first presenter. I believe it's Victor. Victor, go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So it will be the first presenter, but without slides. So you can see my pretty face. Do you see my picture? Let's pin it.
Yep, you're all good.
Okay, cool. So welcome, thank you. This is the State of Jenkins webinar, May 21st. So let's start with basics. Just a quick reminder in case somebody got lost and is here for the first time, doesn't know what Jenkins X is. So a little bit of context. Jenkins X is a platform, is a tool, that's all good. But what really matters is that we, in this context, CloudBees, is both building Jenkins X and building on top of Jenkins X. What that really means is that we have a couple of flavors of Jenkins X. One of them is Jenkins X open source, which is where CloudBees and the wider community are contributing and figuring out new and better ways how you can do CI/CD, mostly in Kubernetes. On top of that, we have Jenkins X Distribution, which is a monthly release, monthly stable release of Jenkins X, where we guarantee a certain level of stability for certain features and certain platforms, and so on and so forth. Think of it as LTS release, stable release of Jenkins X. It is production ready Jenkins X. So if you want to play with the latest newest features, that is open source. If you want stable release, that would be CloudBees Jenkins X Distribution. And then we have a third flavor, which is CloudBees Cloud Native CI/CD, which is a new software as a service SaaS offering, which is built on top of Jenkins X. And it is supposed to be a general purpose software as a service, CI/CD tool that is leveraging all the power of Jenkins X, and on top of that, giving you all the advantages that you might have from using software as a service, SaaS. We will see a demo of that soon, but now that we clarified the different flavors, different versions of Jenkins X, let's talk about updates. And we're going to start with SaaS. So what did we do in the meantime? Since last time we talked about it, is that we now have a limited preview program. And what we really want is to get initial feedback from companies, from individuals, from people, from teams, and incorporate that feedback into future releases, future improvements, and future features that we are working on. What we really want is to drive SaaS, but that applies actually to all other things we do, to drive it based on real feedback from real users, based on running it and using it on, let's say, daily basis. Now, however, that is a limited preview. It is not ready for prime time, meaning that this is not GA yet. We are not yet ready to release it to everybody. So we are really now in a phase of collecting feedback, and we really need your support. Now, soon we will let wider group of people use and test the service, software as a service. And I think that we should be ready for that somewhere around summer, probably near the end of the summer. We will be able to release CloudBees CI/CD SaaS to a much wider audience, so that more people can use it and give us feedback, and we can continue for that from there. Now, the main focus of what we are doing right now and what we are trying to accomplish with SaaS is mostly around stability. We want to make sure that this is enterprise grade, large scale ready. And now, fortunately, I don't think that we have SLAs that we can share with yet, but that is coming very, very soon. Now, that is the current state. That's where we are right now, or what we're doing lately. What's coming next? I already mentioned that somewhere latter part of summer, we will increase the number of invitations to the preview program. We are looking for pilot customers. We are looking for companies who are willing to help us develop the system and figure out what is missing, what is needed, and all the good stuff. Another important thing that is coming to SaaS, I'm focused now on SaaS only, is that there will be a unification of the features between all three, and that includes SaaS, meaning that SaaS will have all the features that Jenkins X has, and to a large degree, vice versa. Now, that was my short intro, so my pretty face. Now I'm going to give it to a guy who looks like he's asleep. Are you awake, Garrett? Do a demo, show us stuff.
Yeah, I'm awake. 2 seconds. I'm just
you don't look screen. Like you're awake.
This is how I look.
I wonder how do you look like when you're asleep?
Pretty much the same.
Go ahead. I'm confusing you.
So the view that you can see here is a view of our SaaS. This is our Workspaces list page. Now, what is a workspace? So each row on this sort of table that you can see represents an isolated environment that we spin up inside Google Cloud Platform. It has its own Jenkins X installation inside it, and you can spin up as many of these as you want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kick off a new one so you can see how that looks. It takes about 15 minutes, so we won't see that complete at the end of this demo, but I'm just going to create a new one quickly now. You can see I've created quite a few of these recently. Just going to need to get my token. And I'm going to build this inside my test organization. I can select a size of cluster if I know what type of builds I want to be doing. And that's going to create a new row and start provisioning the infrastructure. It does that using Terraform behind the scenes. Once the infrastructure is there, it starts installing in Jenkins X, and it verifies the environment at the end, and then it comes back and we have it. So on to another view. So this is a workspace that I created earlier. We have the options to either create a quick start project or import a new repository. For this, I'm going to show you create a quick start. This is we have a quick start selector with a restricted list of quick starts for now that we've verified and tested all work on the SaaS. So I'm going to choose the fastest, which is Golang HTTP. I'm going to give it my token. Let's just clear that out. This token workflow is a little bit clunky at the moment, but it's something that will be resolved for GA. And I'm going to just name this after just to make sure I don't get any clashes. And we can see here, this is creating the project. It's running what would be a normal JX create quick start behind the scenes, coming back. And very soon, here we are, the project is set up. So I have links here taking me through to the project to see where I am. I can go to the project view, and we can see that the initial build is actually kicking off. We have a very nice log viewer. By clicking on that row, we can see the effective pipeline, the meta pipeline kicking off start, and then we'll see the actual build and and everything going down through here. So some other points to note: you've got sort of documentation available straight away from the user interface. It's not contextual at the moment, but I believe that the idea is that, again, by the time we're GA, that sort of it has an idea of where you are and can point you to the right place. We can see a list of builds that are going on our workspace. There are other builds available. You can, the GitOps builds are hidden by default, but you can go in and drill down and actually see if there's what's happening on your environment. So you can see a list of stuff, and then a list of projects that you've created for each one. And then you have a nice workspace switcher at the top that lets you jump between different workspaces. So Victor, that's all I was going to show.
Okay, that looks awesome. It's actually very exciting. So, shall we switch to Jenkins X open source and CloudBees Jenkins X Distribution? Most of the things I will be talking about apply equally to both, while a few are reserved for the distribution. So let's see what we had. Very exciting month or so. And we did, I believe we actually did a lot of things. To begin with, we launched EKS support. Now, when I say EKS support, it does not mean that it didn't work before, it did. But now we have a rock solid solution that is validated in AWS with EKS and in cooperation with AWS folks. So it's fully ready for EKS. And what we are working right now is making it rock solid, work really, really well in OpenShift and Azure AKS. So those are the next targets from validation perspective and doing whatever might be missing over there. We improved greatly, or at least I believe that we improved greatly the way how we are creating clusters. And we did that by abstracting or moving parts of infrastructure related tasks outside of Jenkins boot into Terraform modules, right? So we're splitting the two, and Jenkins X boot will continue existing, but it will serve the purpose of setting up Jenkins X in an existing cluster on top of existing infrastructure. While if you do not already have such a cluster infrastructure ready, you are actually able to use Terraform modules either to spin up everything you need, or alternatively to use it as, how to call it, executable requirements. So you can use it to spin up your cluster infrastructure, everything, or you can look at the plan and say, okay, so that's what I need. I'm going to create it any other way that I prefer. And now the next one is something that is very exciting. And that is that we switched to Lighthouse by default. So you can still use Prow, but from recently, I think a week ago or something like that, Lighthouse is the default bridge between your cluster and Git and it fully replaces PRAW. What that really means effectively is that while with PRAW we were supporting github.com only and exclusively, that's a limitation of the project. With Lighthouse, now we support github.com, GitHub Enterprise, in terms of being GA, fully finished, and we have a preview for GitLab support. Right, so that's the third Git provider that we are adding in a preview mode right now. And I believe that Bitbucket support is coming soon or in a preview state, one of the two. I'm not sure about exactly where it is right now, but Bitbucket is coming, or it's already there in a preview mode. Now there is a, depending on whom you ask, less or more exciting part, and that is not about new features. It's that we solved, I don't know how many, hundreds. It would be cool to say thousands, but let's limit ourselves to 100. We solved hundreds of bugs and issues in the project. A huge amount of things were solved, and all in the attempt to make Jenkins X rock solid, stable, something that everybody can rely on. And we are there, I think. I mean, of course, that does, when I say we are there, does not mean that we are not going to be solving bugs anymore, kind of we are finished. That will continue, but a huge effort is continues being put into resolving as many issues as that is humanly possible. So that's where we are right now. Now let's talk about where we are going next. And there are also many exciting things coming in not so far future, relatively soon. To begin with, probably most exciting new thing coming is multi-cluster support. While you can do multi-cluster today with Jenkins X, it involves a couple of workarounds. What we are working on right now actively, quite a few of us, is a fully baked in support to work with multiple clusters combined with the existing cluster and namespaces and all the stuff in a very transparent and user-friendly way. Now, there is one thing that many of you are kind of eager to hear what's going on with Helm 3. Helm 3 is coming, and it's coming through the multi-cluster support. So those new clusters being added to Jenkins X will be based on Helm 3, Helm file, and all the other good stuff. At some later moment, when it's safe, let's say, when we are confident, we are going to make a transition of existing Jenkins X clusters to Helm 3 as well. What we really need, and this is a cry for, call for action, cry for help. We are going to release multi-cluster support, or what we call it, remote environment support, very, very soon, and we need as many pilot companies to try it out and give us feedback as possible. So stay tuned. We will announce official initial preview release very soon, and we want you to tell us what to do next, where to take that project, what is your experience, whether you encounter any issue. Any help would be greatly, greatly appreciated, especially that I know that everybody's waiting for that. So you're waiting for it, we're waiting for feedback, everybody is happy and all that stuff. Another exciting thing is that we are working on bring your own vault feature. So you will be able to continue using Jenkins X to set up vault, but you will, if you already have existing vault, you will be able to hook Jenkins X into your vault, either existing one or a vault instance that you will set by yourself. So it will be more flexible to which vault instance it can connect to. What else? Yes. Now talking about pretty colors. You know, people get tired seeing all in the terminal. So UI is coming. We are going to, I mean, it is already there, but we are moving UI from the alpha release to beta release. We're releasing quite a lot of new stuff in it and moving it to beta. We are getting closer and closer to GA. And I hope that should be available somewhere around summer, the end of summer, around that. Don't take my word for it. It might be sooner, it might be later, but current expectation is somewhere around the latter part of summer. And we've been most of our focus regarding UI was around missing features. And so we wanted to make sure that whatever is missing there, or not whatever, but the critical parts that are missing in the UI that Jenkins X can do is there. And we are going to bundle that with some, for now, basic authentication and a lot of performance improvements. What else? Yes, we are working on users management, on rollback access control, RBAC, that will be able to connect Jenkins X SaaS or that you will be able to use in conjunction with Jenkins X SaaS offering or self-managed Jenkins X. With that being said, I'm going to give my screen to David. He has a demo. Exciting times. Go, David.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome. So what I'm going to show is two pieces of functionality that are going to be put into preview within the next few months. There are features that people have been crying out for. And what it is the distribution of Jenkins X from CloudBees is going to support OpenShift. And also we're going to enable GitLab support as one of the SCM providers. So what I have here is an installation file. So for people that are new to Jenkins X, a Jenkins X installation is installed via something that we call boot, and configuration is placed into a JX requirements file. So if I open that, in here, you'll see I have configured my Git kind and Git server to use GitLab. And I've also changed my cluster provider to be OpenShift. To support this, we also change the webhook engine from Prow to Lighthouse. This is currently the default in open source Jenkins X, and the CloudBees distribution of Jenkins X as of the next release will be shipping with Lighthouse enabled by default. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to cheat a bit. I already have a cluster that I provisioned, so I'm not actually going to run this. But if I was to run it, I would basically just run jx boot -r and pass in the requirements file. And that would go ahead and ask me a few extra questions and install Jenkins X into an OpenShift cluster. So what I could show you next is I'm already connected to this cluster. So you'll see here's the Jenkins X installation with all of the pods that are running within what we call the development namespace. And you'll see the important thing here is that Lighthouse is currently enabled. So Lighthouse is made up of a few different components. There's a webhook component, which is used to take in the webhooks from GitHub or GitLab or whatever your SCM provider is. There's something called Keeper, which manages merging of your pull requests. And then there's another component called Foghorn. And Foghorn's responsibility is to update the Git provider with the statuses on your builds. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you the actual installed environments. So Jenkins X uses GitOps for environment management. And what you'll see here is when the cluster was first installed, we created these Git repositories, which were created within GitLab. So if I open this one, this is the dev environment. So what you'll see is my dev environment configuration is now living upon GitLab. So to show you some more usage of this, I'm actually going to create what's known as a quick start. So Quick Start is a way to create a templated application in Jenkins X. So I'm just going to clear this. X, create Quick Start. It's going to ask me a few questions. Okay, so I'm going to go for a Golang HTTP project. And that's asking me to make a username, and the username is that one. I think it's what the default was anyway. Okay, so that's going to set that up for me. So that's basically templating out the project, and it's going to create this new repository up on GitLab. So you can see all of the files have been added in here. What's going to happen now is that we'll kick off a master pipeline build of the new project. So you'll see that there. So you can go in and view all the logs as that gets built. That will eventually get pushed up into a staging environment. So it follows the exact same flow as what it would be if you were using GitHub. So I'm not going to wait for that to finish, but what I'm going to do next is just give you a quick example of pull request. So I have a previous project that I created here. And I have this open merge request. And what you'll see is ChatOps is fully supported in Lighthouse using GitLab. So for example, there's a plugin that enables me to post pictures of cats. So I can do /meow. And what should happen then is I should get a picture of cat posted back. There we go. So there's my picture of cat. But on a more serious note, what this enables me to do is add approvals to my pull requests, get my pull requests merged, and basically manage the life cycle of my pull requests within the comments. So that's basically what I wanted to show.
Brilliant. Thank you, David. So is there anything else? Yes. One thing that people are asking for the most. We are greatly improving Jenkins X documentation, redoing it, reformatting, writing new content, eliminating obsolete content, and so on and so forth. It is getting better. It is getting drastically better. And this is not idle talk. This is true. This is coming, and it will get even better very soon. We are committed to make documentation amazing, and we are doing it. And with that, that's the last thing we had. Let me see whether there are any questions. Should I read them in my broken English?
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
okay.
Got one. Go for it.
Okay, so in regards to EKS support, I have a number of Kubernetes clusters which expose services through single ingress controller via ingress rules. TLS is terminated on AWS load balancer with cert issued by AWS Certificate Manager. Is it possible to use JX without Cert Manager to enable TLS but use AWS Cert on Ingress? I will say huge yes, but it wouldn't be the first time that I'm wrong, so I'm going to let David or Garrett prove me wrong. But I don't see why not.
I have never tried it, but I think you could probably do it by adding extra annotations to your Ingress resource. So I think so, but we'd need to test it.
Okay, you just committed yourself, David, to test it. It's in public. It's in public, eh? He said it. It's recorded. Okay, so Ozzy, we have a follow-up note. I did, but Cert Manager is deployed. So I guess, I mean, that's my guess as well. It's if certs are defined somewhere else and we specify that we want TLS in through the boot, it's a question of disabling Cert Manager, which I honestly don't know whether it's available as an option right now to enable TLS or Cert and disable Cert Manager.
So what was the issue that you tried to disable Cert Manager, but you couldn't disable it?
I'm reading now more comments. And Ingress rules do not have TLS configured in Ingress rules. But if you're offloading certificates above Kubernetes cluster, then probably there is no TLS to be configured in Ingress rules, if I'm guessing it right?
So it's possible to configure an Ingress object to create an Amazon load balancer, which I think is possible then to put a certificate on it via some extra annotations. What you'd need to do is disable expose controller on the applications that are running and manually configure the Ingress resources into chart templates.
And if you want to remove or disable Cert Manager, I believe it's installed with its own separate step in the boot config pipeline. So you should just be able to remove that step from the pipeline.
It's like we definitely need to make some improvements around the configuration on this and get the docs up to date around it.
What would be the correct action? Maybe Ozzy can open an issue and we can follow up. Would that make sense?
Yeah.
Which follow-up could be, here is how we do it, or this needs to be changed, fixed. So open an issue. Anybody else? I think that's it. Any parting words from David, Garrett? No? Okay, then. That was our session. Thank you very much. And see you, when are we gonna, I don't know when, but see you again.
Thanks, everyone. All right.